Hello everybody, it's Wyvern here with another bit of Total War, Warhammer 2 Quick Match gameplay. This time around we are on Waldenhof playing as the High Elves against the Forces of Chaos. And going into this one I decided to go with an infantry heavy or infantry centric build. I decided to discard the cavalry, discard the mobility that I usually try to rely on with things like Illyrian Reavers, with things such as the Fireborn and units like that, Alariel, and instead go for a very static, very shooty sort of build. So for my lord here, I decided to go with Techless, and he's the choice, or he's the lord of choice for me because he is cheap and he brings some very good utility spells. He's got Bound Fire Convocation, which I forgot to take off, to be honest. Potion of Troy, of course, which keeps him some great self-sustainability. Regrowth, which is nice because I'm going with some elite infantry in here. Enfeebling Foe, which of course is really good to keep to debuffs key units, and then Net of a Mintok, which is just a great, obviously, snare. It prevents your opponent from getting to your backline and running him. And the cool thing is that it combos with Kindle Flame, which might not seem great when I don't have much fire damage here, but we're running with Sisters of Avalorn. So say my opponent tries to push Kolek through here, we hit him with a net, immediately the Sisters are getting 22% more damage against them, which is pretty crazy. Now for the rest of the build, the front line is composed of spearmen. These guys, as you can see, deployed far forward because I was expecting my opponent to have some sort of Hell Cannon play, perhaps, or it's something you see fairly often from Chaos is Hell Cannon play. And so I figured that if my opponent has a Hell Cannon somewhere within his spawn zone, I don't want it immediately firing on my Swordmasters of Hoeth, of which I've got 3 here in the back. So it's the spearmen deployed in the front, backed by the 2 Eagle Claw bolt throwers ready to snipe enemy artillery, and then 3 Swordmasters in the back, ready to push in if needed, backed by the 3 Sisters of Avalorn, who are ready to push in on top of the Swordmasters if needed. Now for my opponent, he did decide to roll with a Hell Cannon. He's got one over here, not the Soul of Damnation, so not the Regiment Around, which I think is a bit of a mistake. If you're going to run a Hell Cannon, might as well go whole hog and get the Soul of Damnation. The extra rate of fire, the extra accuracy, and the extra ammo can all be very beneficial, in my opinion. And all it would cost you is like a single Chaos Marauder chopped off here. Heck, maybe just chop off some of the chevrons and you got it. My opponent decided to go cheap on his Lord. He brought a Chaos Lord here with basically nothing, Foe Seeker's Deadly Onslaught, and Standard Eye. A Chaos Sorcerer of Shadows with Permeable Pendulum, Enfeebling Foe, and Melkoth's Miasma, as well as Pit of Shades. I actually completely missed that, I misjudged it, but so actually pretty wide selection of spells. Interesting choice with Pit of Shades. It's not something you see all that often, but perhaps expecting some Phoenix Guard and annoying units like that. Regardless, he can definitely be a major nuisance. Front line of Chaos Warriors with great weapons, so of course these guys will not beat or even trade all that well with Swordmasters, but they can definitely put the hurt on them, especially if helped with, say, an Enfeebling Foe, or perhaps some harass from these Marauder Horsemen, of which my opponent has 2. 3 units of Chaos Warriors with Halberds, and then the front line is a bunch of Chaos Marauders who are just there to soak up fire. But immediately you can see the Bolt Throwers coming online and pounding away at the Hell Cannon, as it wastes his first shot trying to counter battery the Eagle Claws. And you're not going to win. There's very few artillery pieces in this entire game that can go tit for tat with an Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower. Basically, it's just the Hammer of Witches, Empire Cannon, maybe, and a Dwarf Cannon. Maybe a Dwarf Bolt Thrower. I'm not entirely sure there, though. So, Hell Cannons really can't trade tit for tat. So you can see I pulled my Swordmasters back almost immediately, though now I'm pulling them back in because I was expecting to take out my opponent's Hell Cannon shortly. You can see he's immediately going to start pulling away, not wanting to lose that precious artillery piece too soon. But now I'm going to simply pursue. I'm going to have to push in because I do want to take that artillery piece offline. I don't want it there to harass my high value targets. And you can see the bolts there pouring in and actually picking off some of those crewmen in the back. So taking them down. And at this point, the crew is very depleted. I think it's down to the last 3 dwarves. If one more dies, it's not going to be able to fire, though. At this point, it almost doesn't matter. The Hell Cannon's almost dead completely anyway. So we're going to start pushing forward at this point. I know that if all I need is like 1 shot to take that Hell Cannon offline, maybe like 2, because there's just so little left of it. And I do want to start pressuring my opponent. I want to get those Sisters online because there's a lot of unshielded crap here that I can snipe. And you can see a few Bolt Thrower shots there going into the Marauder Horsemen, picking off a few models, nothing fancy. Another volley over here, though, goes into the Hell Cannon and finally does destroy it. So it is offline. My opponent has gotten basically no value out of it. It's gotten 1 kill against, I think, an artillery crewman, so nothing to brag about. Now the Bolt Thrower shots are going to start raining in against some of these Chaos Warriors. And you can see they're actually picking off quite a few models there because they're in this box formation. It's not the sort of formation you want to be utilizing. Don't go box, guys. It's not good. But you can see we're going to get some good value there. And now we're going to switch to Scattershot and start pounding some of these troops. Of course, Chaos has no healing, and Scattershot will do some okay work against relatively clumped up troops. And you can see there it's going to do some work. And now the Sister of Avalorn are coming online, and they're going to start pounding these Chaos Warriors over here. You can see those last cannon shots, those lasers flying in. So plasma weaponry is great, guys. It really does help bypass that armor save, you know. So we're destroying some of these Chaos Warriors. You can see it hadn't been my intent to let the Marauders soak up the charge, but I decided, you know what, screw it. Get the Swordmasters in there and start dumpstering these fools. Get them off the field as quickly as possible. I can always support with Techless. And you can see these poor Chaos Warriors. These guys completely mulched. These guys in terrible shape. And my opponent is trying to zone me out here a little bit. He does manage to get a Pit of Shades here. I think a Penumbral Pendulum would be better. But we're not pushing through. The Spearmen are pushing through. You can see the Sisters, they're just mulching these Chaos Warriors. These guys completely on the end of their life there. And these Chaos Warriors don't even get their charge off, which is a little unfortunate. Over here, my opponent is able to get a full charge into my Swordmasters after a few hatchets go in. So definitely starting to get a good trade here. And one of the big problems is if Swordmasters lose their martial mastery, or martial prowess, they're going to be in a pretty bad spot. Even the Chaos Warriors with great weapons are going to start having comparable stats. So, and they've got a lot more HP right now, so something worth keeping in mind. You can see the hatches flying in, really evening the odds here. But that said, Net of Mintok with that Kindle Flame going down, and it's going to start melting these poor Chaos Warriors. They're going to have a horrible time of it. You can see that constant hail. In the meantime, over here, we are going to get a spell. Over here, you can see Regrowth keeping these Swordmasters tip-top shape. They've only lost one model, and that's the only reason they're not like full HP. And they managed to mulch through Marauders, through Chaos Warriors with great weapons, and Chaos Warriors with halberds are next, and they're up to 100 kills. So absolutely ludicrous stuff there. Over here, the Spearmen are locking down these Chaos Warriors and these Chaos Warriors halberds. And over here, we are going to get a Fiery Convocation, so that fancy Phoenix is going to roast some Chaos Warriors. Doing very little, but hey, it looks cool. Over here in the meantime, the Chaos Marauder Horsemen trying to push in, but we're going to zone them out with the spears, while the Bolt Thrower just continues raining death and destruction down on them. And you can see there where they're getting picked off their horses. And at this point, my opponent's army is basically over. You can see there's still about 3 minutes left on the clock. We did actually discuss some stuff after the game, but it's basically over. You can see he's trying to get Penumbral Pendulum here, but it's going to whiff because I was pivoting my Sisters there. You can see the Chaos Warriors here who have routed are just getting pounded in the back, shot by those unchivalrous elves, and those plasma shots are coming in. I love the fireworks display you get. It's just so awesome. But over here, the Chaos Sorcerer of Shadow gets caught up by the spears. He's going to get torn down. Techless sitting around, and the Swordmasters here actually, with the little help from the Sisters, do actually manage to win out against these Chaos Warriors with 3 weapons eventually, and then pivot in to deal with these Chaos Halberds. And at this point, my opponent's army is, as we discussed, basically gone. He's got his Chaos Lord, but Swordmasters here up to 150 kills against top-tier elite Chaos Infantry. They're going to mulch a lot. The last 2 of these Chaos Halberds. Spears here zoning away the Lord. We're just pursuing him. You can see he's under a steady stream of last cannon fire. Just not able to escape. Techless is in there, and at this point it's going to be full army rout. So we're just going to fast forward here because at this point it's just a question of killing the Hell Cannon. We did engage in some chatter about Sisters of Avalorn and how powerful they are, and my opponent was of the opinion that they're really strong. Personally, I don't really agree with that. I think Sisters are still rather overpriced for what they provide. But in this situation where you don't really, my opponent needed more backline harass. So if you watch this video, just so you know, you always want more backline harass. You want some Chaos Knights, you want some Chariots, some Dragon Ogres, some Hounds, anything. Even Hounds will do well because they tie down the Sisters. They're obviously not going to win. They're probably barely going to kill any models, if any. But they're going to bog them down and buy you time to win that front line fight. So at this point, it's just the Spears jabbing this poor guy to death, and that is going to be game for the High Elves. Now, looking at the stats, you can see the Swordmaster doing some monstrous work, 174, 156, even the bad engaged one got 82 kills, so doing some crazy work. Keep in mind, these are not trash tier infantry they were mulching. It's not like they were slaughtering zombies all game, like for example my Greatswords in the one replay I had recently. They were fighting, going tit for tat with some mid-tier Chaos infantry, which is really solid, and they were winning decisively. Certainly they got some help from Regrowth and Sisters and that sort of stuff, but still, just ludicrous performance. Sister of Avalorn gaining some chevrons, doing some good work, able to melt those Chaos Warriors. Of course, the Bolt Thrower doing good work as well, shutting down the Marauder Horsemen and the Hell Cannon, so just great stuff all around. I was really pretty pleased with this build. I'm not sure it's the most competitive necessarily. I could see some heavy sort of harass builds or heavy cav builds screwing this up pretty badly. Though you never know, because if you see your opponent brings a bunch of cav, you can perhaps set up your spearmen to zone the cav out a little bit. Use the net to zone other units out, and then pound them with Sisters. If you can take down, say, if your opponent has a bunch of say Chaos Knights, you can possibly net them and then smoke them with Sister Fire. You can force them to be aggressive with the Bolt Thrower, which is pretty slick. Like I said, for my opponent's build, I do think the big problem was the fact that he just didn't have much backline harass. He invested very heavily in the Hell Cannon, or utilizing the Hell Cannon, but I think that the moment he saw it bolt throwers, he needed to be pushing in. Personally, I'm not a fan of the Hell Cannon in this matchup, although I have run it a few times in some trolley comps. I'm not the biggest fan of it, just because of how easily bolt throwers counter it, and for that matter, it's countered relatively easily, even by, say, light cavalry units like that, in my experience. Even Illyrian Reavers and stuff like that will do well. But regardless, good game to my opponent, Magnum Knights here. I do hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you found it entertaining, and perhaps gave you guys some ideas on what nastiness you can do with High Elves, and what I think can sometimes be a pretty bad matchup for them. But regardless, I do hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe below to keep up with additional content. If you have any comments and criticism of your own, as usual, do not hesitate to post down below. I'll do my best to respond as soon as I can. I do thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Wyvern out.